Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. The United States has officially entered into the war with Iran. On Saturday night, President Donald Trump told the nation the U.S. launched strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, resulting in spectacular military success.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Razencane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, in his address hours after President Trump said the U.S. devastated the Iranian nuclear program with its overnight strikes on 3 sites.
U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. The order we received from our commander-in-chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. But it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Full stop. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military we can back it up. The most powerful military the world has ever known. No other country on planet Earth could have conducted the operation that the chairman is going to outline this morning. Not even close. Just like Soleimani found out in the first term, Iran found out when POTUS says 60 days that he seeks peace and negotiation, he means 60 days of peace and negotiation. Otherwise, that nuclear program, that nuclear capability will not exist. He meant it. This is not the previous administration. The President Trump said no nukes. He seeks peace, and Iran should take that path. He sent out a truth last night saying this: any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Signed, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Iran would be smart to heed those words.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu congratulated President Trump, calling the move a bold decision that will change history. In a video address on Sunday morning, he said the United States has done what no other country on earth could do. And the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency confirmed that the Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan facilities had been hit without providing details of the damage. The Iranian Center for the National Nuclear Safety System said that no signs of contamination have been recorded, stating that there is no danger to the residents living around the aforementioned sites. And while the world awaits Iran's response, though, President Donald Trump has warned the country to toe the path of peace. The Iranian Parliament's National Security Commission spokesperson Ibrahim Raisi says Americans will be the first and most affected and will bear the consequences of joining Israel's military campaign against Iran. In an interview in Tehran on Sunday, after the United States attacked the 3 Iranian nuclear sites, Raisi said, on behalf of the U.S., until now, we've been fighting with America's proxy forces and American equipment, American F-35s, American drones, and American bombs and missiles. Today, only the pilot has changed. The pilot who yesterday was Zionist and Israeli is now American. He also claimed that the U.S. would pay the higher price, warning that Washington would regret its move. And with some other reactions, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, has called an emergency meeting of the Board of Governors for Monday. He says the agency has been informed by the Iranian regulatory authorities that there has been no increase in off-site radiation levels after the U.S. attacks, but the agency, he says, will continue to monitor and assess the situation in Iran and provide further updates as additional information becomes available.
Based on information available to the IAEA, let me update you on the status of Iran's nuclear sites following U.S. attacks in the early morning hours on Sunday. Craters are now visible at the Fordow site, Iran's main location for enriching uranium at 60%, indicating the use of ground-penetrating munitions. This is consistent with statements from the United States. At this time, no one, including the IAEA, is in a position to have fully assessed the underground damage at Fordow. Given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred. At the Isfahan nuclear site, additional buildings were hit, with the U.S. confirming their use of cruise missiles. Affected buildings include some related to the uranium conversion process. Also, at this site, entrances to tunnels used for the storage of enriched material appear to have been hit. At the Natanz enrichment site, the fuel enrichment plant was hit, with the U.S. confirming that it used ground-penetrating munitions. Iran has informed the IAEA that there was no increase in off-site radiation levels at all three sites. The situation at the other sites remain, as I have described in my past updates, and the IAEA is not aware of any further attacks on Iran's nuclear sites since those on Sunday morning. We continue to monitor the situation and encourage the Iranian regulator to maintain its contact with the IAEA's Incident and Emergency Center. Our inspectors remain in Iran ready to undertake the required tasks when agreed with Iran. In this connection, and in order to guarantee their safety, arrangements have been made. I wish to thank the Iranian competent authorities for their cooperation on this matter, as well as UNHCR, UNDSS, and the UN designated official for security for their support. Madam President, let me again recall past General Conference resolutions that state that armed attacks on nuclear facilities should never take place and could result in radioactive releases with grave consequences within and beyond the boundaries of the state which has been attacked. I therefore again call on maximum restraint. Military escalation not only threatens lives, it also delays us from taking the diplomatic path. To achieve the long-term assurance that Iran does not acquire a nuclear weapon and for the continued effectiveness of the global non-proliferation regime, we must return to negotiations. As I have already said, I'm ready to travel immediately to Iran. We need to keep working together. We need to keep working together, despite existing differences. I am ready to engage with all relevant parties to help ensure the protection of nuclear facilities and the continued peaceful use of nuclear technology in accordance with the agency's mandate. I count on your support so that the IAEA can deploy nuclear safety and security experts to Iran, in addition to our safeguards inspectors already in the field. Together, we have managed so far to support and preserve nuclear safety during another military conflict. We can do so again during this conflict. Of course, there are major differences between these situations. We know it. But we have proved that we can work cooperatively even in extremely difficult circumstances, and this to the benefit of all. The stakes are high, and doing nothing is the riskiest move of all. Throughout this long and difficult journey, there has never been a time more important than now to muster the political courage to step away from the edge. Our shared mission of Atoms for Peace is a noble one. It has saved millions of lives and livelihoods. Together, we have done so much to maximize the life-affirming power of the atom and minimize its destructive potential. Yes, there are differences. Yes, we may not agree on the reasons behind and even the consequences of the current crisis. But there is a common denominator that exists. First, we don't want to see a nuclear accident. Second, we don't want to see more nuclear weapon states in the world. And yes, we have this institution, the IAEA, through which to work professionally and constructively towards this end. This is a precious foundation on which we can build trust. Yesterday, I told the Security Council that the IAEA was ready to play its part to bring this military confrontation to an end. The IAEA is all of us, and all of us know that, irrespective of individual positions and views, One thing is certain, and this is the simple truth. We will not be safer if there are more nuclear weapons in more states around the world.
The U.S. Secretary General, UN Secretary General, beg your pardon, Antonio Guterres, says he is gravely alarmed by the use of force by the United States and that there is growing risk that the conflict could rapidly get out of control with catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world. In the meantime, airstrikes continue between Israel and Iran. International Affairs analyst Dr. Charles Chukwunaru has been helping us understand the implications of joining the war against Iran. Let's head back now for the conclusion. Joining me now is International Affairs analyst Dr. Charles Chukwunaru. He's in Alberta, Canada. Dr. Chukwunaru, thank you for joining me on the program. And you almost predicted that President Donald Trump was going to go this route with Iran. And here we are, these unexpected strikes happening Saturday night, targeting nuclear facilities in Iran. What does this mean for Iran and for the United States?
Well, I recall in my last interview with you, I did say to you that the US president was already in it. The US was already in it, and Iran knew that. So they tried all they could. But one thing has to be clear. Let's be clear on this. From the day Donald Trump was sworn in to the White House with Bibi as the prime minister in Israel, it was a foregone conclusion that the United States of America was going to take out Ukrainian nuclear facilities. So what it means for Iran, the Iranian Revolution of 1979, which threatened the United States of America strategically, which threatened to wipe out Israel from the face of the earth, is over. That revolution is over. And that explains why someone like Donald Trump got elected into White House.
You know, the US president says Iran needs to negotiate peace. Iran should pursue peace. How can Iran be pursuing peace when it has just been bombed by the US? Its nuclear sites have been bombed by the US. It is being bombarded with air raids, airstrikes from Israel. How does a country like that negotiate peace when it is not even the
Peace through
instigator of
strength.
anything?
Exactly. Yes. You see, what the US have done now is to restore balance of power at disequilibrium in favor of the US, trying to reestablish the US as the world superpower or unipolar system, because Russia had a strategic agreement with Iran in January, and Russia would have been able to stop the US from doing what they did. They didn't. They couldn't do that because they are bleeding. So Iran right now cannot do much in terms of standing up to the US. And the message from the US is clear. You cannot have a nuclear weapon. And that has been the condition of the current regime.
Yeah, we understand that, but how does Iran negotiate peace? How does Iran do what the US is asking it to do when all of its defenses are down? You already mentioned most of its military commanders have been taken out. This is a difficult position the US has put Iran in. So, what are the options in front of Iran right now to pursue?
The statement by Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump that it is time for peace through strength. So they don't have a choice
Hopefully we will.
than to seek damage limitation. And damage limitation here means capitulating. Capitulating means here surrendering. You know, Donald Trump said total surrender. So if you have an option, you say, okay, what can they do? There's nothing they can do than to capitulate. Capitulating means doing what Donald Trump and the state of Israel has been calling. They have to seek peace by force.
What do you mean seek peace by force? Because right now they're fighting Israel. Should Iran take on the United States because of the attacks
They
on
cannot.
the 3 nuclear sites?
They
No, I'm saying,
cannot.
yes,
Their help,
but
the
should
only
they?
help, their only help right now, Russia is bleeding. Who is going to help them? What did Saudi Arabia say? What did United Arab Emirates say? These are the two. What is coming from Doha, Qatar?
But we're looking at the response
What
of
is
Iran.
Turkey? What is Turkey saying?
You think this is really the end of the reign of the Ayatollahs? Because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once said that the Iranians also want a change of regime. Is that what do you also agree with the Prime Minister that the people of Iran will eventually topple this government when they see how defenseless they are in the face of Israeli and US strikes?
Not just not just that they are defenseless, the failure of the regime to deliver on their promise. Their promise was to take out Israel from the face of the earth. That had been the promise. The small Satan and the US, the big Satan. And I mean, they've carried this on for too long. I mean, you heard what the German Chancellor said. He said that Israel was doing the dirty job for the world. These guys who promised to amass uh, the kind of military capacity to take out Israel and take out America, and they didn't just say it; they acquired the missile capacity, and then they started enriching uranium up to 60%, which, I mean, you need 90% to get to weapon grade. They don't want, the world will not want to repeat the mistake they made in North Korea.
Since you mentioned North Korea, it was developing. In fact, we believe that North Korea has nuclear weapons. It's been enriching uranium ever since the 2000s. It already has nuclear weapons, and when President Donald Trump visited the border, the demilitarized zone, where he met with the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un back in 2019, eventually had to choose diplomacy with Kim Jong Un. North Korea is still keeping its nuclear weapons. In hindsight, I think they would say it was a good thing that they did, because that would, if they had given up their nuclear weapons or the enrichment of uranium at the time, then they would be in this same position that Iran is in now.
Well, you're 100% correct. And that is the mistake the world should not make again, and America would not make again. That diplomacy did not work. In fact, they have, well, it's widely believed that they have nuclear warheads, but what they lack now is the missile, the intercontinental ballistic missile, to safely deliver it. But Iran has the capacity to deliver. They developed the missile capacity, that is the IBM, the long-range intercontinental ballistic missile, can deliver it anywhere they like. Iran you could see what Iranian missiles are doing in Israel, and they are still developing the capacity much more. So all they needed was the warhead to put on it, and Israel will be gone.
So Iran says, has debunked the U.S. Reports that the B-2 missiles did destroy the nuclear plants that Iran has in the three different sites. According to Iranian television, the attacks only hit the entrance and I think the exit, but according to them, the facility itself remains intact. None of those things have been done. Of course, I know we all know that this is propaganda, but the Russian President Vladimir Putin did warn the US president not to get involved in the war. What do you think his position will be now that the US has gotten involved in the war, has struck the nuclear sites in Iran, and is warning Iran to choose a path of peace and not to respond?
Firstly, let's talk about the Iranian response. What do you expect from these hardliners? I recall during the time of George Bush, who was brought in to do what Donald Trump was brought in to do. What did Saddam Hussein? Saddam Hussein said this will be the mother of all wars. The U.S. military will swim in their own blood. That was what, and at the end of the day, what happened? So these hardliners, that is how they don't give up easily. They want to go down fighting. So what the Iranians are saying, it's not different from what Saddam, the rhetorics we are getting from Saddam Hussein. At the end of the day, how did they end up?
Dr. Chukwunari, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your staying up this early to speak with us on Diplomatic Channel. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
That's the program today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.